is developed by external sources. And of course, you've got the accreditation that goes with it then. So the member also then feels more part of it, because we're investing in them to send away on these courses, and they're coming back with a certificate, and that goes down to SRTs, WIMs, search managers, ICs, 4x4 driving. So I do believe that's really important to take the team forward and make the team member more valued, if I can say. The technology side of it, to assist us, yes. Live tracking, all our team members are encouraged to have their phones, a particular app on their phone that we can track just within MR. GPS tracking, we've got that on the hill because we utilize that with our online mapping system for evidential purposes, for search areas and taskings. What else was in the question, Dave? Sorry.
Just what's made the biggest difference to the team, really, and our effectiveness?
The biggest difference, I believe, is mobile phones and technology and tracking. We now and our online booking in system. So when we get a call, we all show our availability. So instantly, as a search manager, if I'm duty coordinating next week, I press the button, 60 members get a pager message. I say pager because we used to carry pagers for old days, but it actually comes through now on your phone as an SMS and an email. It comes up, search required, XYZ, show your availability. I can instantly log on to a SAR call login in system. So Dave, myself, and what have you will show then you're either available, limited availability, or not at all. So within minutes of the call going out, I can see I've got 20 available people, or I got 10 available people. So from moving the team forward, that has been a massive step forward to us, and that's been with us now possibly only the last five years. So we as a team have only taken that on within the last sort of 5 years. But to show the availability of the team member, that's been a fantastic tool in that respect. So whereas before, I used to jump in a car, used to drive the RV, which I'm down in the Swansea Valley. I could have had a shout up in Newtown. So I've got a 2.5, 3 hour drive to get there. When I get there, I realize, shit, excuse me, French, I've only got 3 people available because they've turned up. So all that has gone now. I now know within minutes how many I got available. So now I could do something about it early on. So I'm seeing it's midweek. The weather's bad. I've got lots of people off ill, etc. And I've only got 5 people available. I'm thinking, oh God. But I can see that. And before I even leave the house or the office, I can then alert one of the other neighboring teams and say, look, can you assist us? We're low on numbers. So technology and the interaction from the membership now are painting a big picture really early on, which is good. So that's really good technology. With the tracking side of it then, if the guys are responding, they will turn their trackers on so we can see live real time then where people are coming in from their respective homes and workplaces. So again, I can see estimated ETAs of people arriving to the RV. So again, I'm having that confidence that I can see something's happening. And likewise, the police duty coordinators as well are seeing that as well. So again, they just flick back and forth into the incident to see what's happening, and they say, "Yep, the boys are cracking on, and we don't need to worry about them." So that has made a big difference to us with the team. Yeah.
Brilliant, Craig. You've got a question.
Yeah, thanks, Nigel, for coming on. This is really interesting so far. My question is around the sort of like the expectations of the call out. And you were saying earlier on that it's not a quick service, as in the sense of an ambulance turning up in the high street. Is there a system or anything in place that, like a paramedic in the ambulance, where somebody gets there sooner than the main team, or somebody having a grab bag and going up first?
Yeah, so there's two strings to that, Craig. If we get alerted or we get an ambulance assist call, that comes in two guises. We get an ambulance assist call because they haven't got any ambulances to send, so everything is down to us. Or they'll have an ambulance assist call because they're responding and they know in the waterfalls area, in some certain parts of the beacons, they know full well they're not going to be able to extract the casualty on their own. So they'll alert us at the same time. So they'll get their 8 minutes or response times in or whatever it is. Some paramedics will take it upon themselves to go onto the hill. It depends on the weather, obviously, because they're not kitted to go onto the hill for any sort of length of time. Or they will await some of our earlier guys that are nearby, and they may go onto the hill with them for their assistance. So whilst we may have an hour, 2 hour to get a full team formulated, because we're geographically spread around Wales, we could have 2 or 3 members to the RV within 20 minutes of the call. So we are putting some good times into the RV, but they won't necessarily have all the equipment. So utilising the ambulance service and their grab bags, etc., they may well deploy onto the hill to go and do the initial assessment, initial CPR or life-saving stuff until we get there. And that allows us again to give us information. One, when we get there then and set up control, we got some early information coming in saying, well, I can confirm the casualty is at grid reference ST123456. And I can confirm we have an open fracture of the right leg and we're possibly going to need a helicopter evacuation. So we get in early information coming in. And again, that's all done. If we're not there in radio comms, that's all done by sort of text messages as well. So that's if the ambulance service sort of get there. Now, there is an unwritten rule that the ambulance service do follow, is if they cannot hear or see the casualty, they're not supposed to leave their vehicle. Now, some do and some don't. That's obviously their prerogative. But generally, they could be an hour's walk into the CAS site. They don't carry the navigational aids that we do, or any good mountaineer. We're fortunate as a team that we actually have paramedics within the team. We have 1 doctor and I think it's 6 paramedics within the team. So depending on their shift pattern, most calls, we actually get a frontline paramedic coming out with us anyway. And of course, they then go out as a team member, but also as a paramedic. But they are going out, equipped to go out. As Dave will allude to a little bit later on, an incident where, in the car park, it's just, mild drizzle, but on the summit of Pen y Fan or some of the higher peaks, it is blizzard conditions and you could be in the Cairngorms. And, they're not equipped for that. And unfortunately, we don't carry kit to equip them. We can get early intervention. Again, every job is different. Are the ambulance service attending? Are the ambulance service crews able to go onto the hill? There are some ambulance crews that perhaps aren't hill fit. So we've got to think of them as well. But the skills within the team, if our paramedics aren't there are, because of the courses that we run, we have advanced advanced CAS carers, which are up to sort of technician level. Yes, we can give morphine. Yes, we can, splint, and we can give pain relief, etc. So, we can manage most things as team members ourselves. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
I think, Vicky, you've got a question, haven't you?
Sorry, tech issues. So you've already answered part of my question, but obviously you've got a bunch of 60 people who are ready to respond, but not all of them can. You said you might have maybe 20 respond. You know who they're going to be because they've responded on the app or whatever, but how do you manage like team structures and things like that? So obviously over 3 jobs in a day, you could have a different set of 20 people every time. So to make sure like all the roles are carried out, all tasks are done, responsibilities, team leaders, like how do you manage that kind of process?
Sometimes with lots of balls in the air. Because we're volunteers, I am purely reliant on who can attend at that one particular shout. So if I press the button now, I can see on my list, I've got a doctor coming, I've got a paramedic coming, I know Ewan's coming, so I know he's good at technical. I've got Dave coming, I know he's good at water. So I know what the job is. So I know what sort of personnel needs to be attending. As a team, we don't particularly have any, we have a rounded understanding that we train in everything. So every team member needs to know, sort of various knots and technical system. Every team member needs to know basic life support. Every team member needs to know water awareness and bank safety. So every team member's got a rounded understanding. And then we move into sort of the specialisms then. So you get these mod 1s, mod 2s, mod 3s. I don't know if I'm talking, yeah, you all know, terminology, yeah?
I have a good idea.
Sorry?
I have a good idea, I think.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I wasn't sure who the audience was. And then you have your 4x4 drivers who have gone over training. But your technical, like everything, you have people who are more competent in technical, but yet everybody's got a rounded understanding of the system. Expectations, you need to know or need to learn a lot of different aspects within a team. We try and keep everything simple. Our rigging systems for doing cliff work is one of the most simplest systems within mountain rescue. We don't use lots of different stitch plates and rigging plates, etc. Because we don't do this every day. We need to be able to people to turn up at 3 o'clock in the morning in the snow and rig the system. So whilst the general running of the team, we could pretty much run with anybody who turns up. Yes, there's going to be natural, we need specific skills, and hopefully, they will turn up. But as I said earlier, I can see if that specific skill isn't coming, I could do something about it early on and try and get assistance from elsewhere. Structure then, when we get to an RV point, obviously got lots of people mulling around. What do we do? So basically, again, with training, we have a team member, we have a CAS carer, we have party leaders. So again, there's a handful of team members who are party leaders who we deem a bit more sort of a bit more experience, who then can actually take that party onto the hill. And a party consists of 4 or 5 members, which will go out and do a given task, either search an area or go and set up a belay system. So that party leader then will take the briefing of what the search manager wants them to do. And then that party leader then in his own little group will be his own little leader, and then will sort of instruct that little group as they go out. We work on lots of acronyms, like the fires, police and do. So in that situation, we'd use sort of SMEAC, which is the briefing the party leader would give to his group once he's got it off the control, is this SMEAC, so situation, mission or incident objectives, execution, administration and logistics, and command, control and communications. So those brief leadership skills then would be disseminated with that group as they're walking out to their given task. So they'll have a full understanding of what the situation is that they're going into. We're very mindful of some situations that we do go into, is some of them aren't very nice or very pleasant, i.e. Suicides, deaths. There could be quite a traumatic casualty that we need to go and see that we know, is quite traumatic. So it's important for the party leader to understand his group that he's going out with, that they're all happy to continue with that tasking. And again, there's no expectation that if someone thinks, oh, do you know what? if I think it's going to be a body, do you know what, I don't want to go out on this job, absolutely fine. Meet their expectations, take them out of the scenario, and then, you know, just put someone else in and just move on. So I think that answers some of your questions. Yeah, cool, thanks.
Yeah. Nigel, you said about the going out to the not very nice things, which we do, and the team fairly recently has set up a system to deal with that, haven't we, with the welfare groups? Can you just share that with everybody? So I think that's I think
absolutely. Like everything, we're all perceived as heroes and this, that, and the other, and we just go home and have a cup of tea and a laugh and what have you. But as a team, we're very good at dealing with things like that within the team. There is black humor. I won't hide behind that. I believe it's actually a good tool sometimes to have some black humor, as long as it's done in the right place and obviously the right time. The bigger picture, and in fact is national now, thank goodness. But as a team, we've been mindful of our sort of welfare and well-being for a long time. So we know initially that it may be a suicide and there could be someone hanging, or there could be a less traumatic one and they just take some pills. But nevertheless, there is a body at the end of it that we have to deal with. To try and bolster that up and support the team members, we've introduced a welfare officer within the team that oversees all the welfare and gets lots of information, because we're a voluntary organisation, we don't have the money and the backup that perhaps the statutory services have, that they can go off and pay for psychiatrists and have consultations thereon after. But we've tried to find some local people then within sort of Cardiff, Swansea, and up north, Bilth, of these organisations, welfare organisations, that we can tap into should we feel that we do need to go further on and seek further help, as it were. But after every incident, we will have a debrief. And we'll have a debrief no matter what the incident, but particularly if there is a death involved, there's different processes. So you'll have a hot debrief, and that is in your little group with your party leader and your 4 other colleagues. You're walking off the hill in your own little group, because you're now sort of somewhere else. You will have your hot debrief there on the way down. So you'll air your concerns, your good points, your bad points, how you're feeling, etc. That'll obviously be noted and private to that group. We will then get to the control vehicle, and once everyone's back, we will have a control debrief of just the general, why we sent you up there, why we did this, etc. And of course, are there any concerns from the floor? So that's 2 points of ways of vocalizing any concerns. And then a week to 10 days after the incident, we will have an operational debrief. And that will consist of the actual people involved in that incident. It won't be a full team. It'll be involved in the people that were involved in the actual scenario, people in control and are involved in that job generally. So that could be 15 people, 20 people, what have you. And they will generally meet on a separate night, and behind closed doors. We'll have a sort of discussion, round robin, and I'm trying to think what. Sorry, Dave, it's escaped me now. What's the latest term?
Trim.
Triage. Yeah. So we've got trim officers as well. Triage, incident manage awareness or something. And basically what that is, it's 4 guys within the team who went away for some trim training, and the purpose of them is to recognize traits or recognize changes in people. To think, do you know what, I haven't seen Nige for a couple of weeks in training, I'd better give him a ring, So and it's a process that we're looking out for each other, and those 4 guys amongst them will keep an eye out on members. They will, after an incident, they will message you to offer you a trim assessment. They're not counsellors, they are purely assessors. And the process of that is basically a series of questions which have got perhaps leading questions with them, which may offer trigger points. So they offer the trim assessment. 90% of the people say, no, thanks, I'm good on this one. Yeah, it was a bit of a bad job, but I'm okay. But that's not to say then they're not then monitored for the next however long. They're constantly monitored in the background. So if someone does take up the offer of a trim assessor, they will obviously offer to meet up, and that could be somewhere neutral, somewhere, wherever of their choosing. And the assessors then will go through their sort of crib sheet and sort of mark down and ask some questions and just generally about the job. And basically, it's a scoring point. And I don't know what the numbers are because I'm not a trim assessor, and I don't feel it's fair that I know those numbers, because obviously one day I may need that assessment, and obviously I don't want to trick it, as it were. So I rather not know. So it's only those 4 guys know the process. They then obviously amongst themselves, and again, this is all confidential. Even the leadership don't know about it. All we know is that someone's gone for assessment, and it's left at that. They will then possibly offer up some counselling service that we can get. We can tap into, I think, the police benevolent fund type counselling service should they need it. And as a team, we've recently said that we will fund up to a certain amount of any sort of counselling, because we don't want the team to go into the NHS system and go and see the doctor, which then could take 6 months, 12 months to get seen. We offer, go and see someone private, so they can go and see someone next week if they so wish. So, yeah, so between the sort of the inter-team black humour, then the incident, the hot debrief, the incident debrief, and the operational debrief, and then the trim, we feel there's lots of opportunities to try and capture someone's sort of change in mentality and hopefully catch something if there's anything early, and hopefully deal with it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nigel. My last question, really, and then I'll sort of open up to everybody else, is we were on a job, I think it was February time, beginning of February, up on Pen y Fan. Gentleman and his son and nephew or something had gone for a walk up, and they were appropriately equipped, because I think he worked in a builder's yard, and they'd given him a high-vis jacket, so he got that on, so he was fine up on the hill with his walking boots and his steel-toe caps boots. And the weather changed. It got dark, and I think that the son and the nephew came down, and there were a number of sightings of this gentleman up on the hill. So it was, we knew he was there. The weather was deteriorating. And we attended to assist another team. So they were coordinating the rescue. But I heard you on the radio. And the only way I could describe it is coaching somebody to make the right decision about continuing the search and where to go. And I appreciated that because of where I am. And you did it without that person really feeling offended or coached or anything like that. Can you tell us how you about that? Because it was quite impressive.
How do you put something like that into words?
I don't know. That's why
I don't know. Yeah, absolutely. I really don't know, Dave. I obviously see things from a different point of view from our colleagues from other teams. I know, and I think one of the beauties, particularly of that particular job, Dave, was I had all this technology in front of me. I had the trackers on. I could see real time where my you guys were. the other team, which were in a different valley approaching from the south, didn't have this technology because they chose not to go down that route as yet. So I was getting obviously frustrated because I could see what our guys are and potentially what the other team was sort of suggesting wasn't quite going to give us the right outcome. How did I sort of convince them, and say without them realizing it, of what we needed to do? I don't know. I can't put it into words. It's just something I've done, whether it's just my character or nature. Yeah, I'm trying to think how to answer that. How?
I think one of the things that you did was you very calmly asked some questions to make them think about the information that you had and the information they had, for them to start formulating a plan in their head and starting to see it from your perspective. Because I think that
I think there is an element of suggestive comment where it is a game. You sort of suggest the comment in such a way that they like to think it's what they thought of, but you've done it through the back door, as it were. And yeah, how that's done, I don't know. And I don't, if I'm honest with you, and without blowing it, I didn't realize I was consciously doing it. It was just something that I do. But yeah, at the end of the day, I was just looking out, because we had the majority of the membership out there, so we were the predominant strong team that night. I had a lot more sort of invested in it because I had a lot more guys out there. And yeah, I didn't want our guys to be dictated to from elsewhere, so whilst we had a joint control, as it were, I think I was in a better position because of the technology and what I could see. And I had been, and again, sorry, it was fortunate that the son and the nephew actually came down to our control point. So of course I had first-hand information, which obviously gave me the upper hand to sort of formulate a much better what if or search plan of, well, if he went here, where would I have gone myself? And that's what search planning is all about, is whilst there's a lot of statistics of what people do when they get lost, there's also then a lot of second guessing. So you actually put yourself in their shoes. You know, what would I have done if I'm up there and did this without a map and compass? And that's where I plan then to put my searches in of sort of likelihoods, and it's all down to percentages and, you know, search percent possibility of detection. Yeah, you know, it took us a couple of hours to find him, but you know, we did find him, and the outcome was obviously, well, in fact, you know, we saved a life that night. I'm pleased to say, because he wasn't far from the guys, search teams that did find him. He was sat on a rock on the edge of a 300-foot sort of drop down into the valley. He'd actually stopped shivering because he'd gone beyond shivering. And I dare say within perhaps another hour or so, he would have succumbed to the weather and it would have been a different story. So yeah, sorry, Dave, I haven't answered your question because
I think you have, Nigel. I think you have answered the question. I think you've answered it well for me, unless anybody else got anything. So I'm going to just open it up now. Has anybody got any sort of questions? Be mindful you come in one at a time. David, Matt, anything from either of you? No. Anything from anybody?
I was going to ask you, Nigel, dealing with volunteers. I think the volunteers you deal with are probably slightly different than the volunteers I deal with, because they're you've got quite a high level of commitment and certification, all sorts of, and the fact that you are an emergency service essentially. But do you find there's something different about managing volunteers? Because I know in a lot of voluntary organisations there can quite often be a lot of conflict and things because of the way that sometimes the volunteers you have are maybe not the volunteers you want. If that's a bit unpolite, that's the sort of sentiment.
Indeed, it's actually a good question, Alan. So we as a team, our entry process, we actually do quite a bit of filtering out beforehand. There's 52 teams within the UK, and they all do it differently. We're not governed from above, we're governed from below. So we're autonomous in that respect. So our process is we want to take on hill members of an ML standard, Mountain Leader standard, early on, because taking someone in off the street, Joe Public, again, unfortunately, my experience is they join in for the wrong reasons. They join in, it's blue lights and it's all rushing round and what have you. But as you can imagine, it's far, far more than that. So to try and get the right temperamented person, there's an application form to fill in, and there's certain criteria on that. There's a meet and greet, where it's an open session. We all sit around the table and a bit more of a PowerPoint about the team, what we do, what the expectations are. And early on, the expectations are, we've got to raise our own money. So there's lots of fundraising to do. There's lots of kit cleaning to do, etc., etc. There's call outs to go to, and ultimately call out is what we're about. And there's lots of training to do as well. So, even after that meet and greet night, some people go away from that night and actually say, "Ooh, do you know what? This isn't for me." So a couple of people would drop off at that point. The next point then is a exercise out on the hill, where it's a predefined navigational exercise, because as a team, we haven't got time to teach navigation. We haven't got time to teach map reading, etc. So that's why we're looking for an ML sort of standard. So you've done all that. We want to teach rescue skills now. So on that night, then it is a sort of a 3-hour sort of quite a walk, bit of scrambling up some steep ground to show confidence, bit of micro navigation, and the others, and just a general chat to the assessors. And again, that's a pass-fail evening. And then from there on in, they either drop out or carry on. So the type of people are already coming through, they've got the right attitude, okay, because they know it's going to be a lot of work. Personalities, obviously, we can't look into that. We don't know that until people join us. As a team, we have procedures, we have training structures, and we have certain things that we got to adhere to. Some people, sort of, okay, I'll do it. But I think what you find, Alan, is that over training, because we train every week, we meet every Wednesday evening, and we do a mock exercise every first Sunday in the month for all day. So, and that, with everything else, is quite a commitment. You're not expected to attend them all, but there's obviously a certain percentage that you are to keep up your people skills, if nothing else. What we find through no real process is that people either fit in or they don't, because they get to learn our routines, because the team is the team and it's been going for 50 years. Yes, we've expanded and we've grown and we've taken on technology, but it's made up of the team members. And unfortunately, there are clashes. I'm pleased to say there's no big clashes. There's disagreements. There's, as everything is. And at the end of the day, I, as a leadership, I listen. You got to listen. You got to respect. There's certainly no egos in this team. There's no sort of pants on the outside of your trousers attitude. It's very much sort of, we're all in it. We all want the same outcomes, and we help each other, to get there. And I think just by doing that throughout training, call outs, and just offering respect, I think people find their own level. And okay, over the years, some people haven't found that very workable and have left. Obviously, we can't do anything about that other than try and empathize and say, well, look, I understand what you're saying, but unfortunately, this is the way the team is. Now, I don't dictate what the training is. The training officer does that. I don't dictate what driver training we do. The driving. Because so many people are doing that, it's a much softer approach rather than this sort of, or them up in, up in the ivy tree, ivy tower per se. And it just works. And I don't know whether, Dave, you're a relatively new member. Is that pretty much what you would see it as?
Yeah, I think so. I think that the beauty of it is because it's that the individual team members have their own responsibilities and their specialisms that are overseen by the management.
Yeah.
And we are almost given it not a free rein, but we're allowed to think for ourselves. We're not told what the solution has to look like.
Yeah.
So we come up with a solution, and then the management team is the check and balance for that, really. And I think that's one of the reasons it works, because if the team fails, it's failed because of the team members, not because of the management.
Yeah, and say other teams do lead from the top, and they are very dictatorial. I go back to myself as I have the title of team leader. I sit, in the committees. I sit in meetings. I'm answerable to various statutory organisations. But obviously, I speak on behalf of the team. But if I'm responding to a shout, I'm responding to a call, and I'm not the duty coordinator, I will turn up just like any other member, and I will sign in, and I'll put my boots on, rucksack over the shoulder, and I'll get tasked just like anyone else. And the membership know that as well. So there is none of this, Nigel's, it's very much, I like the core phase as well. But when I need to be in the control and run that side of it, I can adapt to that. And then I think people respect you for what role you're playing, because you never know who's going to be your incident controller. You never know who's going to be your party leader. You never know who's going to be your CAS carer for that shout. So I think we're very good at sort of stepping down from our sort of roles and stepping up to our roles. And as Dave says, whilst we have training guidelines, they are sort of guidelines in the very word. Nothing's hard and fast. This is how we rig a system up. However, if you can't rig it up like that for this particular job, you think outside the box, but we give them the scope to be able to do that, which I think is really positive, and it works. Now, I keep going back to statutory service. Statutory services are very, what should I say?
Prescriptive.
Prescriptive. I can't do that because I need to check higher up the chain. So there's none of that. So in fact, you hear of these police officers standing on the side of a lake and someone's drowning. Well, I can't go in there because I'm not allowed to. Unfortunately, yeah. We're allowed to use common sense. So yeah, and that just works for the team. Everybody, and they've got their own responsibilities. So yeah, that's how. And some people like that. Some people like structure. Unfortunately, some people do like to be prescriptive. They don't want to think. Unfortunately, this team is not that place to be told to do something. People are expecting to join and be told, right, I want you to do this, this, and this, and this is how it's going to be done. Unfortunately, they're not going to last 2 minutes because we haven't got time for that. Yeah. So I think that's how it works. And Alan, as I say, people just come and go then because it either works for them as an individual or it doesn't.
Yeah.
They all know what the expectations are. They all commit to the fundraising, commit to the equipment cleaning nights, etc., and just give what they can.
Thanks for that.
It just works. Yeah.
I was impressed by that thing that you're saying, that you can go out and you're just on call like another member, which is great. Obviously, it keeps you sound, and your skill level has to be kept up. And
I'm a great believer that I'm a managing director of my own company. I employ 10 people. Yes, I sit at the desk. I've got the MD badge, but I'm also in the van going out and climbing up scaffolding. So the boys, why they haven't done this? They can say, well, why don't you do it? I can now answer back, and I bring that into the team as well. Yes, I go out in the shitty weather. I go out and fall in the river. I go out and carry a stretcher. And to be fair, that goes right across the board to my deputies, to the doctors, to the paramedics, and they're really good at just handing over that, not handing over, but just overseeing. And I love it, particularly our doctor. If a paramedic came along and I'm doing some sort of intervention, and a paramedic, my first thing would be, "Oh, there you go." But they're very good at saying, "No, carry on. You're doing a good job," you know. And that's really good, and the membership like that. Because otherwise, we'd all get de-skilled.
The only thing I would say, though, to that, Alan, is, Nigel does come out on the team with us on the hills like any other member. His hill rucksack always seems smaller.
Where's the mute button? Where's that mute button? Yeah, thanks for that, Dave.
The usual trick on that is you put a couple of rocks in it, Dave.
Yeah, it does happen now and again.
He bought us some new CAS shelters that are like putting 2 rocks in your lap.
Again, I left that open to the team to sort out. Hey.
Anybody else got a question? Other questions? Cool, brilliant. Well, thank you, Nigel. That was interesting. I hope people have got something out of that, and you've got a better understanding of how mountain rescue teams work. And God forbid you ever have to call us out. But the only piece of advice to give you is, if you're going to have an accident, don't have it in the Brecon area, because you like to ask them that. So,
yeah, you might get Dave on the other end of it.
Okay, if there's no other questions, thank you ever so much. Thank you, Nigel.
I hope it has sort of given you a little insight. I know it sort of deviated a little bit from what the title was, but yeah.
This was a With Dave production.